reflecting on the history of collaborative response and the foundational components within it, what we were finding as a school is we would engage in our collaborative structures and processes, particularly the collaborative team meeting, and when we would ask, who should we talk about? This was before we understood the power of bringing in a key issue in relation to the student. We were still focusing specifically on students in those conversations. However, what was happening is 3 responses were coming up frequently, each one bringing with it a different struggle or a need to overcome. So when we would ask, who would you like to talk about? One of the staff members would say, that's a great question. I've brought my student list. Out of my 25, I have 21 students that I wish to address in the conversation today. We're often seeing a lot of additional students that were coming to the forefront where we recognize that they may not need that same degree of support as others that we hope to be surfacing. In another situation, we'd hear a staff member say, I'd like to talk about Kurtis. And everyone in the room will go, oh, Kurtis, again, Kurtis is dominating every one of our conversations. We needed a mechanism to be able to surface other students within these collaborative team meetings and the discussions that were involved within. A third response that we would sometimes hear would be, I don't really have any students to bring today. I was worried last time that we met about 2 or 3 and we talked through them. I feel like we're in a really good place. I've got a really good class this year. I'm good. I'm fine. All 3 of these responses were problematic in different ways. The third response in particular, I think surfaced for us that we didn't yet have safety or vulnerability. It wasn't yet okay to be able to say, I have this student I'm struggling with and I'm not sure what to do. We needed a mechanism to surface students for the conversations so that for each one of those 3 responses, we could have an adequate response back to be able to determine who should we really be focusing in on. The answer for us at the time were our assessments. We felt assessments was the essential component that we were focusing in on. We would utilize our assessment data, we would color code it, and when someone would say, I'd like to talk about Kurtis, we could say, oh no, our data says that Kurtis is one of our highest need students. We have other mechanisms where we're discussing him. And when someone would say, I have 21 of my 25, or I have no one to talk about, we could say, oh no, the data is surfacing that these are key ones that we need to be able to bring forth into this conversation. Now, we learned over time that assessments were limiting. When we thought about assessments, in our mind, we recognized something larger than just paper and pencil, but the languaging didn't quite surface the value in anecdotal evidence, in our relational evidence. And when we particularly saw schools starting to focus in on priorities like student well-being or social emotional success, assessments didn't quite match what we were gathering as far as information to help respond. Data and evidence became a much clearer, more succinct way to describe this foundational component, and that is utilizing data and evidence to help inform who should we be bringing, particularly to the collaborative team meeting, but then also, how can we use that overall data and evidence to inform our collaborative planning? How can we also use some of our more in-depth data and evidence to inform our more intensive conversations at the school support team and case consult level? Through the use of data and evidence, we can really place a laser-like focus on who should we be talking about, and oftentimes are able to surface students that would typically not arise in the conversation if we did not have a consistent and thoughtful way of gathering and then organizing that data and evidence. Data and evidence is a critical foundational component to collaborative response.